super excited to do this talk because I've never done it before, so this is the first time, and yeah, I hope we can, all of us, learn something out of it. Okay, this goes without saying, but I need to say it. You probably have seen it before, so please, no discrimination, and I want this to be a safe space for everyone. So all emotions are welcome as long as you don't hurt yourself or don't hurt anyone and don't get aggressive. Yes, participating is not mandatory, but that means there are some questions during the talk. If you don't want to participate, please don't feel that you have to. Just share whatever you want whenever you want. And yeah, we're here to learn from each other. So if I do a mistake, please correct me. I'm here to learn from you, and I hope that you can also learn something from me and from the others. And at the end, yeah, Antle cage is empty and free, and also the suicidal cages. Who am I? Oops. My name is Malek. I go by the pronouns he and him. I'm 26 years old, from Tunisia originally, but now I'm based in Munich. I've been vegan since January 2013, and I've done some human and animal rights activism, especially with, how they're called? Whatever, yeah. And I also do some online activism. So I am also on Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook by the nickname Tunisian Vegan. And I am fat, so that's why I'm gonna talk about this. Yeah, and I mean, I've been fat pretty much my whole life, with some exceptions for a couple of months maybe. So I know a lot about fat shaming, and I didn't really know what to talk about during this talk. So since lately I have been I've been thinking a lot about other kinds of discrimination, and about the kinds of discrimination that I am faced with, and fat shaming is one of them. And lately I posted this picture on Instagram that you see here, that my roommate Uli did, and it really took me out of my comfort zone. I feel like I'm representing myself there in a very raw way that I have never done before, and it felt so empowering that yeah, I thought maybe a talk like this could help other people as well. Before we begin, this talk is not about glorifying being fat or obesity. I'm not here to tell you that being fat or obese is good, nor am I going to tell you that it's bad. Obesity and being fat might have some health issues. We're going to discuss this later. I'm here to talk about the impact of fat shaming and fat phobia and Fattism on fat people. And it's a problem in our society that we have to address. And yeah, so no one here is saying that being obese or being fat is good. So what we are going to talk about is, first of all, we need some definitions. So about Fattism and Fatphobia, some misconceptions about them. And then I'm gonna walk you through a survey that I did, give you some examples of Fattism, and then how to tackle Fattism. And later, I think we have a health professional who's gonna talk about being fat and being healthy. Maybe Denise, you can confirm that. And then at the end, you're going to have an open discussion and a Q&A session.
Yes, Nicholas Fassi from Health Safe Movement is on the call. We will have the last, I think, 15 to 20 minutes dedicated actually to speaking about why we no longer use the word, or maybe never have used the word, obesity in the Health Safe Movement. And Nicholas can give this perspective. Nicholas, maybe you want to say just a few words?
Hi, everyone. Yeah, only thank you, Aisha, and thank you, Malek, for this presentation. Really looking forward to it, and really looking forward for a discussion later.
Great. I'm very happy that you're also on this call, that you can talk about that, because I'm not a professional. I'm not a healthcare professional. So yeah. Let's start with the definition of fattism and all of that. So a fat person is a person of a greater than average size. I think that that's quite easy to understand. And obesity is a condition where body fat reaches a point that might have an impact on someone's health. And yeah, Nicholas probably will say it, will define it differently later. And fattism is the discrimination against people who are fat. And fatphobia, as the name suggests, is the fear and dislike of people who are fat. And you might have heard of the movement called body positivity, which is a social movement trying to set the idea that every person on this earth, whoever this person is, and however this person looks like, that they are worthy and that they should have a positive body image, which is, the movement itself has lots of controversial, is it the word? But it's very controversial, yeah. And to be honest, I didn't really know how to tackle this topic. So the first thing I did was some research, and what a better place than YouTube to see what other people say and what other people think about fattism and body positivity. And the comments you see here, all of them are from one YouTube video. People saying, die. People also saying that body positivity is trying to kill people by telling them, yeah, go and have diabetes and heart disease. And that's why I said at the beginning, we're not glorifying obesity and all of that. People saying that fat people are disgusting and like shaming them with everything you see on the comments. And I'm very sorry if this is triggering for you. It was quite triggering for me, but it also shows how people online treat people who are fat. So some of the misconceptions about fat people is that fat people are not healthy, which we're gonna discuss later. But I want to say that being skinny doesn't mean that you're healthy, because you can be skinny and eat like really garbage food and I don't know what you're doing, and you can be also fat but like doing sports or whatever. So it doesn't really mean if you're fat that you are healthy, and it doesn't say if you're fat you are also unhealthy. The other misconception is that fat people can lose weight easily, but they prefer to be fat. And in all honesty, there are people that want to be fat, but there are people that don't want to be fat. There are people that came in terms with being fat, and they say, okay, I'm enjoying my body. This is my precious body, and I want to do with it whatever I want. There are some other people who have problems with their bodies and they're struggling with it. Also, something that I read in the comments, and it was very interesting to me, but then I looked it up, and lots of people think that fat people have lower IQ. They're not that intelligent as their counterparts, which is so, I don't know. I don't know what to think about it, but it's apparently a misconception that lots of people have in their heads. I mean, why should a fat person have a lower IQ or a higher IQ or whatever? Also, fat people eat lots of junk food. I don't recall when was the last time that I ate junk food, but yeah, apparently we eat 8,000 calories of junk food. I don't know, it was in one of the other comments. Again, that's what I said at the beginning. And all of this, I think, comes to one idea that fat people don't have feelings, and then we can treat them whatever we think is correct, and we can shame them online and publicly and whatever, and it's okay, because at the end they don't have feelings, or they do have feelings and we want to encourage them, or whatever the motivation behind this is. Yeah, can you think of any other misconceptions that you want to share with us? laziness. Yeah, super lazy. Okay, then, yeah, let's continue. So then I wanted to see what people think about certain questions regarding this topic. So not just like random questions. So I created a survey online about being fat, and I asked 10 questions. And surprisingly, 426 people participated. And I have to say, I posted this in a vegan group and on my Instagram. So most of the people who took part in this are vegan, and 426 is not that representative, but I think it's a good number to work with. And I'm not gonna go through all of the 10 questions. I'm just gonna pick some that are interesting for us. So first of all, the gender of the people who took part in this, as you can see here, almost 60% identify as female, and 20% identify as binary, which is a good number. I was quite happy to see this. And by the way, tomorrow, the 16th of March, is the International Day against homophobia, biphobia, and transphobia. So happy Idaho for all my queer people here. And yeah. I also asked the question, do you identify as fat or have you been fat? And 60% of the people who participated were fat, and 30% are not fat, and the rest doesn't know or don't prefer to say. And then I asked the question, do you think that fat people are being discriminated against? And I only took the answer from 204 people because I had to update the survey, and because I did a mistake at the beginning, so that's why I only took 204 answers. And surprisingly, almost 90% said yes, they are being discriminated against. I didn't think that people really see discrimination against fat people, but I'm great that at least these people that participated in the survey, that they see that. And then I asked a question. I don't actually know why I asked it. Maybe because it shows how intimate people can get with fat people. So I asked the question, would you date someone who's fat? And 55% said they would, and only 20% said they wouldn't, and 23% said they don't know. And interestingly enough, from these 55%, 80% were fat. So I guess fat people would date fat people, but not all of the fat people said that they would date other fat people. I'm gonna leave that to you, what you think about it. Yes, and then this is the most interesting question that I asked. I asked people, when you hear the word fat, or when you see someone who's fat on the street, what are the things that you think of? And people just wrote in some answers. And yeah, 42% used unpleasant terms. And by that, I mean terms like ugly, shame, slow, weak, sick, unhealthy, ill, uncomfortable, sad, unattractive, gross, sweaty, bad, disgusting, failure, and so on. So these were words that people actually used. I looked for these words in their answers. And what is very interesting is the people who use these terms were mostly fat. So 55% of the people who used unpleasant terms, oh, I need to update that. I don't like the word negative terms. I would say unpleasant terms were fat, which also shows what fat people think about themselves and how they perceive themselves, which is, for me, very understandable, but also very sad. Yeah. So we cannot talk about this subject without talking about fat phobia in the media. So actually what I'm gonna do now in the next slides are I took some answers from these people, and yeah, and one of the people said Homer Simpson. So when I asked, when this person sees a fat person or think about the word fat, they think of Homer Simpson. Funny, but also says a lot about the media that portray fat people as villains, people who don't really know what they're doing. This is from Never Have I Ever, a new series on Netflix, and this person doesn't do anything for the story. He's just there, and every time he's portrayed as clumsy or someone who really wants to eat and doesn't understand what's going on. Also, the good friend, the funny friend. This is from the movie How to Be Single, which is quite funny. And her being fat doesn't really serve the story. That's why I still like the movie, but still, like, she's the funny one. She's like the outgoing one. I don't know this movie, but I think that he was also portrayed as a very funny person. And yeah, Friends, Joey from Friends, he, in one of the episodes, I think he had a dream, or he had the thought that he was fat, and as if it was a curse. So he was cursed to be fat for a couple of hours or a couple of days or whatever. And this is how fat people are represented in the media and the movies. And you cannot also talk about the media without talking about oh yeah, that's another example. That's Thor from the Avengers, I think. And it was the same. He was fat for a part of the movie, and yeah, as if it was a curse to be fat. And of course, you cannot talk about this without talking about ads. Probably you've seen that tired of being fat and ugly, just be ugly. I've seen this also around Munich, where I live, and every time I see that sticker, I try to take it off, but people have these ideas in mind. So what do you think about these ads? What do you think that they say about fat people? And also the way fat people are portrayed in the movies. You want to say anything about that? Humans. Annoying, sad. Yeah, I think what it comes down to at the end is that we are creating stigma with this, that the media are also pushing people to experience internalized fat phobia, which I'm going to talk about in a minute, creating the image that, or associating the image of fat people being ugly, being villains, being sad, or being funny. Like, someone sees a fat person and they have the feeling they want to go to them and ask them, hey, tell a joke, just out of nowhere. Yes, which leads to internalized fat phobia. And some people who took part in the survey also left some comments about that. So I'm gonna read what some of the people said. If it's me, it's failure, lack of self-control and willpower. When it's someone else, it's, I know how hard it is to make healthy choices. So it's understanding. And internalized fat phobia is the idea that it's because I am fat, I am a bad person, or I treat myself in a bad way just because I'm fat. Someone else said, when it's me, horrible. When it's other people, normal. Ugly for me, but for other people, I don't think it should define your beauty because all bodies are beautiful. And I also subscribe to this. Personally, I find chubby and fat people very attractive. And I would definitely date someone that look like me, but I cannot really, like, I'm struggling with my body image and the way I see myself. And I'm struggling with my own body. Yeah, something very interesting that also someone said was poor. They just wrote the word poor, which is very interesting because it has been shown before that there is a correlation between being poor and being fat, and for several reasons. One of the reasons is that healthy food is expensive. And we're not talking about, yeah, there are some people that cannot even afford oatmeal and potatoes and like the vegan staples that we know that are very inexpensive. Also, poor people don't have access to good healthcare. So they also don't have access to good information about health, about healthy diets, about a healthy way of living. Also, it's just the way I see it. Being poor also leads lots of people to work harder and to work excessively, which also leads to excessive stress, which can also lead to eating disorders, binge eating, hormonal imbalance, and so on and so forth. And yeah, there was also a study that showed that being in debt and or being poor higher the risk of obesity remarkably, which is very interesting. Which also shows that being fat doesn't mean you just eat a lot. It can also, there are lots of things that lead to being fat, or yeah. Okay, see, very interesting question. Do you consider obesity as an eating disorder? No, it's not. As I said in the beginning, obesity is a medical condition. It's not an eating disorder. What I mean here, but there are some eating disorders that lead to being fat. That's what I want to say. There are people when they're stressed, they binge eat, they eat a lot, or they I don't know what they do, and then that can lead to gaining weight, or excessive stress also makes the body put on more weight. So by no means obesity is an eating disorder. Yeah. Also, something very interesting. Someone wrote meat eater, and okay, this is something that really annoys me a lot, and something that we as a community, I know not all of the people who are participating here are vegan or are active in the vegan community and the animal rights movement, but it's something that we have really to talk about. So this is, for example, these are some ads from PETA promoting veganism as like, you're gonna lose weight, and if you go vegetarian or vegan, this is the body that you're gonna have, or this is the body that you're gonna rid of, and this is the perfect image of a vegan person. And I really hate this a lot for several reasons. Not only because it shows a very wrong, it sends a very wrong message about veganism, it's fat shaming. It's wrong on so many levels. And when we think about it, veganism at the end means you don't exploit animals. It doesn't mean you are healthy. It doesn't mean you are skinny. It doesn't mean you're a bodybuilder. It doesn't mean anything. It just means you don't exploit animals, and that's it. Okay. Also, there have been other animal rights organizations and activists that publicly fat shamed people. There was an organization that said that fat people cannot be vegan, and they are not vegan because they use lots of resources. So I've been vegan since 2013, but apparently I'm not a vegan because I've been using more resources than thinner people because I eat more. I don't know. Fat people show a bad image of the movement for whatever reason. I don't know why. And also like this hype of celebrating vegan bodybuilders and fit and thin people and completely disregarding the other body types, which I found very unpleasant. Also, always representing meat eaters as fat people. You have probably seen it, like the one that we just saw from Peter. That person is not vegetarian, that's why they are fat. But if they go vegetarian, they would lose weight. Yeah, once I uploaded a video on YouTube and I was sick. I had like a flu or something, and someone commented, "Please delete this. Like you have to delete it because they're gonna think that veganism makes people sick." And yes, vegan people also get flu and also get sick. It doesn't really. It's not related to being vegan. So there's the idea of vegan people always being healthy and being stereotypically healthy. Yeah, also promising people to lose weight on a vegan diet. Just switch to a vegan diet and lose weight. And boy, I've been vegan now for 7 years. I don't know, 7 years? Yeah, 2013 was it? Yeah, and still fat. So, and all of this at the end, it really restricts activism. And lots of people who, let's say, okay, now I am vegan and I've been fat, and now I read that this one organization said that fat people cannot be vegan. Would I, how am I going to participate in their activities and their events? How am I gonna believe in myself and say, okay, I can do it. I can be an animal rights advocate. I can do something. I can change something, but I'm fat, right? It also damages the credibility and the overall image of the vegan movement. Like fat shaming doesn't help the movement, it destroys it. Because let's say someone who is fat and sees all of this body shaming, they're like, why should I go vegan? Like, why? I'm gonna be treated very badly at the end, right? And I don't want to belong to that. Probably they would say, okay, there are other reasons that would make me go vegan, but I don't want to participate in this, everything that the vegans are saying. Yeah. Now, this is also something very serious because I also read it a lot. Fattism kills people. And we're gonna see why. So first of all, these are some ads from health institutions. So the one on the left, I think it's from so Strong for Life is an institution for health children health care in Atlanta, and the one on the right is from the Ministry of Health in France. And this is how they're portraying being fat, that you're gonna be sad, it's gonna be hard for you. Yes, it's gonna be hard for you because the society is really making it hard for you. But at the end, try to imagine you're an 8-year-old boy and then you see this other boy, like how are you gonna feel? Or you're going for ice cream and then you see this and then you're gonna say, oh, I don't wanna eat it, right? Although, I mean, let's face it, ice cream can be quite tasty, and yeah, vegan ice cream nowadays is also nice. So yeah, but there are more serious, ideas or points that I want to talk about here. Many fat people have reported that they have been misdiagnosed because they are fat, so they go to the doctors and they tell them just lose weight, although they have something else. Like they go to the doctors because a skin problem, let's say, and they tell them lose weight. They go to the doctors because they have pain somewhere and they tell them just lose weight, and without really seeing what the problem is. And I heard so many stories about women, for example, having ectopic pregnancy and going to the doctors and they're having pain in their stomach and they just tell them, hey, just lose some weight, and that's it, without really checking on them, which is very dangerous because misdiagnosing people or not diagnosing people with something can lead to death sometimes. Also, healthcare professionals show very little positive attitude towards patients of bigger size. I read an article from a healthcare institution, I forgot where it was, somewhere in the US, and they conducted also a survey, and they found out that only 10% of their students have a positive attitude towards bigger people. So it says a lot about that. Yeah, and if you want to look it up, probably like you wouldn't find an institution publishing like a healthcare institution publishing a study about fattism or fatphobia. They would say weight bias, so they sugarcoat it with something that doesn't look that terrible. It's just bias. It's not something that bad. And also, I don't have to say it, but of course, not all of the healthcare people think this. Yeah, but apparently lots of them. Which, so all of this at the end leads to physical and mental damage and even death. And I remember as a kid, so my parents started taking me to dietitians when I was 10 or 11. So I started dieting when I was 11. And when I was, I think, 16 or 17, I was like, okay, I need to lose weight. I want to do something for it. So I went to a dietitian, and she fat shamed me the whole time. Like, she told me that my body was very feminine, that I walk in a very weird way. And she said lots of bad stuff about it. And I'm like, I am here to lose weight. And you're fat shaming me. Okay, why? How? It doesn't really make sense. Like, I am here to lose weight, and then you're fat shaming me for it. Yeah. Fattism and okay, just before we start here, does anyone have a story that they want to share or anything? Don't wait for me to tell you that. You can just jump in or just put a cross in the chat. So lots of people said that they didn't get a job because of their weight, and they have been explicitly told that. So it's not that they spectaculated, oh, they didn't accept me because of my weight. No, people say that they didn't get jobs because of their weight. They would tell them, we didn't accept you because of your weight. And they would tell them that thing with IQ and being fat, for example, or whatever reason. Also, I heard a story from a French woman that said that she took a job and she started it, and then her coworker made it so hard for her that she even went to their boss and told him, hey, if she doesn't quit or doesn't lose weight, I'm gonna quit. And apparently she was very important that the boss told that woman, hey, you either lose weight or you quit the job. Just because she's fat, just because she's overweight, not because she doesn't do her job well or anything. Usually also, or not usually, but yeah, oftentimes fat people are not taken seriously at work. Yeah, that myth, I've already talked about it. And yeah, apparently fat people are being paid less than their counterparts. So there was a study made by LinkedIn. I think they 4,000 people or something took part in the survey, and they found out that fat people earn per average $2,500 less per year than their counterparts, which I don't know if it's high or not, but at least there is a difference. Fat people are being paid less. 45% of fat people and 28% of slim people who took part in the survey said that the thinner colleagues progressed quicker in their companies than fat people. And fat women earn less than fat men, which is not a surprise. I mean, sexism is also a big problem, right? So fat women have it apparently harder than men. And yeah, I don't believe in the binary system, but they just talked about men and women in this survey. And the problem is that I see, and that lots of people see, is that the employment law doesn't clearly protect against weight bias discrimination. So it protects against discrimination because of race, ethnicity, sexuality, gender, and so on. But there's nothing that says clearly we also protect people against weight biased discrimination. So what can we do against this, and how can we better people when it comes to this? First of all, if in any of this you notice that you are a fattest, that's okay. Don't beat yourself up. No one is perfect, and we're learning. Now that you know about it, let's make something, or let's do something against it. First thing first, the way that someone looks like doesn't identify them, which is I think it's quite hard for human beings for some reason. When we see someone, we tend to make an image in our heads. When we see someone with lots of tattoos, for example, or when we see someone fat, or when we see someone short or whatever, we have that image in our head, but we shouldn't have that image. And if we do have that image, we shouldn't act on it. Also, don't make any assumptions. Everyone is different. There's someone who wrote, in the mirror, I felt self-conscious about my silhouette. Fat is complicated. Everybody has a story. So keep in mind that you don't know where this person is coming from. You don't know what they're going through. You don't know anything about them. So don't assume anything. Don't assume that they are trying to lose weight, or that everyone who is fat is trying to lose weight. Don't accept that someone else's body is not your business. So we all, like, there are some people that have the urge to go to people and tell them some stuff. Like people that called me fat on the street while, I don't know, running, which is very ironic that I go running and then someone just drives by and call me fatty or something, or so, like, you are, I don't know, eating, and then someone comes to you and then they say something like, why do you have the urge to tell me something about my body? Which lots of people may have experienced themselves, not only fat people, but I can see also people, I don't know why I have the image of a tattooed person, but if you have lots of tattoo, I can imagine also people coming to you and tell you, you have lots of tattoos. Do you know that they're gonna stay there forever? I don't know what they're gonna say. I don't have any tattoos, but I can imagine that people also make comments about people with tattoos. Yeah, if you're a vegan activist, an animal rights activist, please don't promise anyone that they're gonna lose weight on a vegan diet. It might help. Yeah, there are some ways that you can do it on a vegan diet. Doesn't mean that the vegan diet per se is gonna help you lose weight. So don't talk about that, please. And think before you speak. Say no to fat jokes. If someone is gonna make a joke about a fat person, just say no. Say that's not funny. You shouldn't do that. Also, stop using the word fat as an insult. And don't use the term junk food vegan. It's also something that lots of people started using lately. Yeah, junk food vegan, like I am vegan, but I'm junk food vegan, like I am an unhealthy vegan or whatever, or because they're fat, they're junk food vegan. It's, I don't know, and I don't find it pleasant. Please never tell anyone I wouldn't wear or eat that. That's so annoying. Like if I'm eating something and I'm enjoying myself, which doesn't, okay, eating disorders here, so let's talk about it, since we're talking also about diversity and learning and all of that. I have eating disorders myself, and it's very hard to eat and to enjoy a meal without having all of these thoughts. So sometimes I'm like, yeah, I'm enjoying my meal finally, and then someone comes like, you really want to eat that? Do you really want to eat that? Do you really want to wear that? if it's not in your body or in your body, don't make any comment about it, okay? Oh yes, when I posted that picture that I show you at the beginning, someone wrote, who is a very good friend of mine, and I love him so much, and he said, "No, you're not fat. You're beautiful." And I'm like, "Yes, I know. I just said I'm fat. I didn't say I am ugly. I didn't say I'm not beautiful." So if someone says I'm fat, don't tell them, "Oh no, please don't say that. You're beautiful." I am fat and I am beautiful. Yes, thank you, Caroline. Yes, which also shows how people think about fat people, right? They associate the word fat with ugly. So when you say I'm fat, people have the urge to tell you, "Oh no, you're beautiful. I know, I am fat and I'm beautiful." Also, when you see someone, please try not to make a comment about their body. So if they look thinner for you, don't tell them, "Hey, did you lose weight?" Or if they gained weight, also don't tell them, "Hey, did you gain weight?" I mean, if they come to you, if your best friend comes to you and tells you, "Hey, do you think I lost weight or gained weight?" Then you can say yes or no. But if out of nowhere someone comes to you and tell you, "Did you lose weight? Did you gain weight?" How do you think about that? Actually, I have this problem with my family because I live abroad. And whenever I go to Tunisia and I visit my family, for some reason, the first thing that they're gonna tell me is whether I lost weight or gained weight. And I'm like, I see myself every single day. I wear the same clothes, or I go to buy new clothes, and then I know whether I lost weight or gained weight. It's none of your business, okay? Unless someone asks you, don't make a comment about it. If you don't feel comfortable using the word fat, there's a new term, people of size. I don't really know how to think about it or how to feel about it. It's just a way of saying people who are bigger than average. You can look it up and make your own choice about it. I don't think I would use it, but it's just there for you if you want to use it. And what I want to do by all of this is, as this person said, when I see the word fat, I just think of fat. It's neutral term to me now, just a basic descriptor. And this is the way it should be. Like saying someone is tall, someone is short, someone is skinny, someone is fat, or whatever, just should be a descriptor, nothing more. This, when you say, "This is red," it's just red. It doesn't mean anything. The sky is blue. The sky is blue, and that's it. Yeah, and in the medical field, so if you are in the medical field, please educate yourself and educate the people around you. I've seen something very interesting that lots of healthcare institutions are doing now, where they make the healthcare staff wear fat suits, and they just walk around the city and spend some days wearing that suit, so they feel how fat people feel, and so they can make a better judgment or feel for fat people. It sounds also a little bit cheesy to me, but it can be a way. But yeah, just educate yourself and educate the people around you. And if you are in a situation where you go to the doctors and they tell you lose weight, please say something about it. Don't let that doctor or that person goes by it. Okay, so ask them, what would you recommend if I were slimmer? Or what do you mean by losing weight? Do you say, are you saying eat healthier? Or do you say move more? Or what is it exactly that you mean by losing weight? Because if you want me to move more, then probably I move more. It doesn't mean I have to lose weight. So don't take lose weight for an answer. Of course, it also depends on the way that the person, that the doctor is telling you that. If they mean it in as a fact, okay, hey, you are fat, you are obese, and we are concerned about your health, and you should do this and that, then it's something different. But if just out of nowhere, if you go just because, I don't know, something is wrong with your hair, and then they tell you to lose weight, then maybe tell them, ask them these questions first. Something else that is very important, visibility. This is something that I have been seeing lately that I have been enjoying lately, especially on TikTok for some reason. I don't know if someone here is on TikTok, but seeing people who are fat and doing the things that they really want to do. So seeing fat people, for example, dancing, which means to me, hey, I'm fat and I want to dance, then I can do it. Not because I'm fat, I'm not gonna do it. And this is what I'm trying to do also on Instagram. I am fat, I say it, I know it, but I'm also an animal rights activist. I do this and that, and it's, even though I am fat, I am gonna do the things that I want to do. And I hope that people also see me and say, Malek is doing it, I can also do it. And it's very important, visibility, not only in the media, because that's a very complicated subject, but online or in real life or whatever. If you are fat, try to show people, well, first of all, take care of yourself and of your mental health. And if you can show yourself, please show yourself, because some other, at least one other person is going to benefit from that, and it's you. So yeah. Also speak up. If you see someone being fat shamed, call it out. If someone is fat shaming you, call it out. If something happens, call it out and talk about it. We have also the privilege of being online and using all of these social media platforms. Use them to talk about all of this. Yeah. Also a reminder, I don't know, I found this picture and it's so funny. I thought that that's me. So that's why that person is there. Reminder at the end, fat is essential for our body, so please don't fear it. And skinny shaming is also as bad as fat shaming. Also going to people and tell them, hey, eat more, or you're unhealthy, look at yourself because you're skinny. Please don't do that, okay? You are beautiful and you're enough and you are worthy and you deserve love, no matter how you look, no matter what people say, no matter whatever you go through. You are beautiful. Every single one of you is beautiful. I am beautiful. You are beautiful. And don't let anyone tell you differently, because they don't know what's inside you, okay? And a final statement about shaming. Shaming makes people feel ashamed, and feeling ashamed makes people anxious, and anxiety can lead to eating disorders like binge eating and other problems. So if you think that by fat shaming people, you're gonna help them lose weight, then you are very wrong. Just be kind, okay?
I would suggest, first of all, Malek, thank you so much for this. I would say maybe Nicholas can say something about the fact that Health Save Movement is not using the word obesity for the sake of the recording. And then we can have as much time as we want for discussion and also for the questions. Nicholas, what do you think?
Okay.
Sounds great.
All right. Thank you both.
Then please go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Malek, so much for the presentation. Thank you, Aisha, thank you, everyone. So just following up on Malek's points, because I think they were very on topic to what I was bringing to this discussion. So listening, sorry, let me take you a little bit before. So during med school, during my training as a doctor, here in Argentina in med school, and I think in pretty much every medical school in the world, we constantly hear about this epidemic of obesity going on and how we need to prevent it and how it is the biggest health issue out there. And when you're a new student and you go through med school, then that becomes really natural, and you really adopt that kind of thinking, that kind of treating patients, that kind of communicating medicine and health. So it was thanks to an Argentinian vegan activist, which is called Señorita Bimbo. Let me show you who she is. Oh, I can't share my screen, but if you look for her,
I can change that. 1 sec.
okay. So I was starting to use Instagram to communicate veganism, and also being a med student at the time, trying to connect both. And I was constantly referring or making reference to obesity and how veganism could help you actually with obesity. So yeah, that was terrible. So I saw this live stream from this activist. Sorry, lots of things opened. This is her on a news article. She's a very, very known. She's actually a comedian. Very good, very known vegan activist, also a fat activist against Fattism and Fatphobia. And she was making a very, very good argument on how doctors turn bodies into disease by themselves, considered certain body shapes to be diseases, and how this is actually more a problem than a solution, because how are you going to feel if just by having a certain body shape or body size, you are turned by itself, just by that, into something that you need to prevent, something you need to treat, or an epidemic that's going around. You know, she, I will share all the links below, but she's very outspoken about this. Very, she's also very solid in her arguments. Like, she's very, the word's not coming to me, but it was convincing. She's very, very convincing. And she's also been outspoken about romantic love relationships, and also about being a vegan fat activist. And she chose about veganism right here. So she really got me interested in this topic, and I started researching really what's behind obesity. So it really got me asking, what is obesity in definition? So obesity is calculation. It's the result of a calculation between your weight and your height. It's your weight divided your height, the square of your height multiplied by itself. So if you give more than a certain number, that's overweight, and more than a certain number, that's obesity. And the reason for that comes from the 1800s. So it's a very old index, not very updated or truthful. And it's that in several studies, it was found to be associated with chronic disease. So if you grab 1,000 people and see which of them are dying more frequently from chronic disease or getting more chronic disease, and you try to find different aspects that you can associate to this, having a fat body was one of these aspects. What's the problem with this is that you're not considering everything else that could be a factor in increasing risk of disease. So for example, we now have more updated studies, for example, the EPIC study, in which what they do is control for body weight between different eating patterns. So if you grab within the study, 2 persons that are weighing the same, and you compare eating patterns, one is a vegan, for example, or a vegan, another a meat eater, for the same body weight, you see the meat eater or the unhealthy eating pattern actually increases the risk of disease compared to the healthy eating pattern. So what this proves is that the weight is not the most important factor. It is much more important how healthy or unhealthy you're eating. Of course, within the vegan eating pattern, let's say, just a vegan eating, there are different ways of eating. And we know as well, this in itself is a pattern. So if you're eating highly processed foods and unwhole foods compared to whole foods and very lots of vegetables, lots of fiber, there is a difference as well. So again, it's about getting these patterns and getting these factors out of the equation to see what this is really about. So when you look at the evidence and see what this is really about, it's about habits, it's about wholesome food, it's about it's about exercise as well. It's about not being sedentarians, not being all day sitting, moving around, walking, riding a bike, running a little bit, and eating healthy foods. So the question is, if it's really about what you do, regardless of your body, why are we always going back to treating obesity and preventing obesity? And what does obesity even mean? It's just a fat body turned into a disease. So if I had to sum it up, that's why while creating and starting with Health Safe, and after researching and looking for a couple of books that I will also share with you, the point was, the question raised was, are we going to be preventing and treating a body shape, or are we going to be talking about healthy foods that we are going to try to make more accessible for everyone? So for me, it's all about making healthy food accessible to everyone in a manner that it's fair, because about justice as well, as Malek mentioned. If you live in a poor neighborhood, and as we saw in the training during this week, you it's much harder for you to get to a grocery shop and much easier to you to get to a fast food chain. So again, when it comes to medicine, it's really about where do you connect the dots and how do you phrase things? Because I could say, so being in a poor neighborhood raises your chances of being obese. And that might be true, that by being in a poor neighborhood, you have a chance of having a higher weight. But wouldn't that be because you can't access healthy foods? And wouldn't that be the reason you are going to be having a higher chance of dying from a chronic disease? Because you're not accessing healthy foods. So if we can tackle the problem by talking about healthy foods and by putting this out there and by putting the information there and by ensuring that foods are there, why would we point out the body shape instead of the food, which seems to be the problem? I don't want to take too much time before opening the discussion, but that's mainly the thought trail that got us to Health Safe, not addressing obesity, which, by the way, of course, if you turn someone's body into a disease, that brings stress, that brings anxiety, that brings depression, that brings shame, which is not good for health by itself, because health is also mental health, but which also brings other negative or patterns that are bad for health itself, like binge eating that Malek mentioned. By the way, suicide rates are also higher in people that are fat in their childhood and their teenage years. And if you look for the papers, what the papers say is obesity is a risk factor for suicide. Are you kidding me? Is it the body fat? Is it the body shape that is a problem, or is everyone else turning your body into a disease? And when you go to a doctor, just seeing the fat body and saying this is a problem, that is taking you to anxiety and depression and a higher suicide rate. This is how medicine turns and uses the facts to tell the story as they want, and the need, and what we are trying to do with Health Save Off, rejecting this body indoctrination idea of how bodies should be, what is normal weight, what is a food disorder. And just to finish up my point, because I was looking at how this might happen in the vegan movement, and how even doctors that are doing a very good job in other aspects are still using this rhetoric. This is Michael Greger, several videos, the obesity epidemic. How is being fat an epidemic? This is terrible, in my opinion. I would hate to see this in a Health Safe playlist. Weight loss. So these are a little bit softer, but of course, this is focusing, what you should do is lose weight. So if I'm eating healthy, if I'm doing exercise, if I'm having healthy habits, should I still lose weight? What's wrong with the weight I have? If just that's a question in itself. But even if I was eating either healthy or unhealthy, this body indoctrination rhetoric, this telling people how their body should be, is actually what we are trying to differentiate ourselves in health saving, and what I think it's very, very important.
Nicholas, thank you so much. Malek, maybe you have a response. And by the way, everyone who would like to ask a question or comment, please put an X into the chat and I'll call your name and then we can go with the questions and comments. Thank you.
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you so much, because that was really very informative. And there are some points that I want to address. There's personal stories, and I hope I don't get emotional. But yeah, talking about mental health and being healthy doesn't only mean your body is healthy, but also mental health. And I saw that most of the times where I wanted to lose weight and I started doing something, it didn't come from a place of I want to be healthy. It came from a point of I hate my body. I dislike the way I look like, and that's why I want to change my body, because when I change my body, then I can do this, then I can be loved, then I can date someone, then I can go overseas or whatever. And I think it's very bad, and it's very it's very unhealthy, and I'm very sorry for everyone who had to go through this. And until, I don't know, a couple of days ago, I had this idea, and now I'm in a situation where I'm focusing on my health, and all of a sudden I started eating like healthier foods, and I'm not really thinking about like being fat or not being fat. I now, like, funny enough, when I had all of these thoughts of I hate my body and all of that, I was staying at home the whole time. And when I wanted to say, or I started saying, okay, I want to be healthy, I started walking outside, just going for night walks, because I'm a night person and I love walking. So now I'm just walking every day, at least 5,000 steps a day, which went from maybe a couple of hundreds to 5,000. And what another story that I want to share is, I think it was in 2009, 2010. So when I went to that dietitian that was fat shaming me, I did something very terrible to my body, which I went on something like a keto diet. So I ate lots of meat. So my diet was pretty much meat and eggs. I would eat a whole chicken in one meal. And I lost weight. I lost around 25 kilos or something. But still, I felt horrible. I still didn't like the way I looked like. My body felt just bad because all of the death that I put in my body, and all of the problems, from eating meat. And I wasn't allowed to even eat vegetables. So it was pretty much, I think only twice a day or something, I would eat some vegetables, and that's it. And what I want to say here is, if you're gonna lose weight in an unhealthy way, then this is unhealthy. The first thing. And the second thing is, if you have these thoughts of I don't look good, I don't like my body, even if you're gonna lose weight, you're not gonna get rid of them. So please focus on your mental health first before thinking of anything else. Try to be healthy, try to eat in a healthy way, try to be mentally healthy, and then I hope that you are gonna find a body that, well, it's gonna be your body that you're gonna that you're gonna love and cherish, no matter what. Yeah. So yeah, if anyone wants to share anything, yes, please go ahead.
I'm going to scan the chat for questions. Please, everyone, put an X into the chat if you would like to ask something or comment.
Well, thank you very much for all the love that you're showing in the comments. I didn't get to see it. But yeah, thank you very much for listening and for being so nice.
Thank you. We do have a question from HJ. Not sure how to pronounce. Please go ahead.
Hi. So the thing is, like, I'm glad that you shared, about your own experience as well, and also you shared about, the way it pushes on to people depression, the stress and depression that people go through. That's really, pretty incredible. That even the whole session was quite eye-opener, even for someone who, if someone had been through it personally, definitely hit some right back home. And if it's someone who hasn't been through it personally, maybe they might even be fascinating people. And for them, it's more like quite an eye-opener, and so it's quite informative. And thank you for that. Just wanted to comment.
Thank you very much for sharing this. I'm very glad that you could take something out of it. And yeah, unfortunately, I couldn't hear anything that you said, but yeah, thank you for sharing.
Yes, because in my personally, what I went through, when I lost a friend of mine, I started stress eating, and then I gained weight, and I got ashamed for that. And so it clearly kind of hit home for me when you mentioned these things, and how it really, the moment people say, when I go out and I volunteer at an animal shelter and go back home, and after a few months or so, immediately they, oh, you lost weight. And then I stay at home for some time. But then the moment, you stay at home, obviously, if it's not a very healthy environment, then you start to stress eat and gain weight and get fat shamed for the same. So also you mentioned like about going out and, everyone, whenever they see you, try to, make it up as to try to see if you're, increased in weight or reduced in weight. So that's the kind of attitude people have. It really needs to change. And thank you.
I'm very sorry for your loss. Yeah, it's quite complicated, isn't it, as a subject? But yeah, it all goes down to just be nice and to educate yourself, right?
Yeah, so true. Thank you.
And I hope
got to say.
you're in a good place now, and that you can cherish your body and cherish your life, and that you, yeah.
Thanks for all. Yeah, it's been quite a few years now, but the way like people act, like the way they reacted, and the way people react to people. Without knowing the backstory, that's where the problem is. And even they may even have a personally, say for example, they can't expect vegans to be completely fit or so. So someone may have an underlying condition, or someone may have something else that's making them fat, and they are physically, that's the way they are. And there's nothing to do with like being vegan or not vegan. And people really need to realize this, isn't it? Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for sharing.
All right. Nicholas shared some links and resources that informed Health Safe stance on Fattism. That is great. Thank you so much, everyone. I'm not sure there are any more questions. I couldn't find any in the chat, and there are no X's.
Last thing, I need some promotion for myself, right? So I would be very happy if you could join me on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube under the name Tunisian Vegan if you want to talk about this subject more, or if you, I don't know, if we want to collaborate or anything, please feel free to do that. It would be very amazing to connect with all of you, and thank you very much for listening. And I'm very happy, and I'm very emotional right now that I could bring or open some people's eyes about the subject. And yeah.
Thank you, Malek. Thank you so much, everyone. There are lots of thanks in the chat, and everyone, if you would like to unmute yourself and thank you loudly, you can do that. For your information, we have next the pro-intersectional approach to animal rights. If you heard me speak about that before, don't worry, I have changed the content. Some of it will be the same, some of it will be new, just so you know. And that's all I can say. Thank you so much to both Malek and Nicholas.